Onto this now, Youth Day will be commemorated in South Africa on June 16th. 45 years ago, black South African students were massacred by the police as they fought against Bantu education. Now, the day commemorates and remembers their struggles. 45 years on, the truth is that most young South Africans are still struggling. The Daily Vox, in partnership with Youth Capital, has launched a special series called #BeTheDrivingForce. The series will run from Monday up until the 9th of July and will explore the different challenges facing young people. Journalist at the Daily Vox, Fatima Moosa, joins us to talk more about this. Fatima, thank you so much for your time this evening. All right. Thank you so much for your time. Now, Fatima, perhaps let's start here. So you've partnered with Youth Capital as the Daily Vox. Talk to us a little bit about the partnership and, just go into details about the series itself and why you have hashtagged it Be the Driving Force.
Hi, and thank you for having me tonight. So Youth Capital, we've covered a few stories of initiatives that they've come up with. Youth Capital, for anyone who doesn't know, is a youth-led mobilization campaign. And a journalist at the Daily Vox, Kelly, wrote an article about digital activism. So Youth Capital approached us and said they'd like to take this further. And when we had our initial meeting, we thought it would just be a one-time initiative, something on June 16. But we were like, why should we stop there? And we said around June 16, there's always that we have one June 16 day, and there's all these events and all these conversations, and then nothing after that. So when we had our conversation, we wanted this to go beyond and actually before June 16. So we wanted to build up in the run up to June 16, create these initiatives, create these conversations, and continue them after June 16 as well, so that we ensure that young people and young people's issues are at the forefront, and they don't just come on one day and on one commemoration, that they're always at the forefront of the national conversation.
Now, Fatima, one of the biggest challenges perhaps this year, especially now that we are in a pandemic, is that even before COVID-19 hit, where the country was, thrown into lockdown, the youth are facing dire circumstances as you and I chat this evening, in that unemployment is in an all-time high, given, the economy of the country, as well as being in a pandemic. What exactly will the series try and target as it relates to unemployment? Because I mean, it's one thing to talk about just how far we've come in the 45 years, but really some of the struggles that the youth is facing currently is that they cannot be employed.
Yeah, that is obviously one of the biggest issues. And Youth Capital, and I mean at the Daily Vox as well, in our journalism, and Youth Capital and their activism work, have found out that it's not even just that there aren't enough jobs, that there's so many barriers. For example, an issue that has come up is that students graduate from TVET colleges, but then can't get their certificates. So then they can't go and apply for jobs because you don't have a certificate. Or you can't get your degree because you haven't paid your fees. We know that student financial NSFAS, all of these financial aid issues are a big issue. So it isn't just the fact that there aren't enough jobs for young people, it's the fact there's so many barriers, and we know COVID-19 has obviously just exacerbated the existing issues. So through our series, we want to kind of highlight what are these issues, but more importantly, what can we do to raise awareness and then try and find solutions, because it's no use speaking about it without trying to find solutions. So that's kind of why our hashtag is Be the Driving Force, because we want young people to tell us what are the issues and come up with the solutions as well.
Now, you've got a number of people, very influential young people, that are part of this series. And I see that one of them is Dr. Asizwe Mpofu-Walsh. You've also got Samuel Flan. Talk to us a little bit about how important it was for you to get the right people on board, and also what their role specifically will be.
So when we were initially had our discussions, I think we came up more with issues and then the people. So we looked at what were the important issues, and then we tried and look and see who are the people who are leading these conversations. So we know, for example, we have Candace Chirwa. Candice Chirwa is a young activist who speaks a lot about menstruation on social media and stuff. So we said an issue around menstruation, gender-based violence, women rights are important. We said, who is someone we know has spoken a lot about this? When we look at the people speaking about climate change, we said it's an important issue, so who is speaking about it? So it was it worked together, like we knew this issue is important, and who has been championing this cause is someone that we wanted to highlight.
Now, you mentioned social media. Will this be one of the key drivers in terms of getting the message across? Now, one of the most important things I think that you've said previously in previous platforms is that you want to start steering the conversation that we are currently seeing now in social media, where the woke and cancel culture is currently dominating, and you wanting to steer the conversation into something more positive. Talk to me about how you think social media is currently being used and portrayed, and how you want to change that narrative.
Well, we know that a lot of times when young people use social media, when we see it in South Africa, when say people are being homophobic or racist, then when people are found to be that, then if someone calls them out, then they say, oh, the cancel culture and the mob justice kind of happens on social media. But we know social media is also a really great place for creating conversations, constructive conversations, and even in that call out culture, there is an element of positivity. But we want to harness this to ensure that it goes beyond also kind of social media, even though we're going to be using a WhatsApp group, we're going to have it on Instagram Live, we're using a newsletter. We want to try and also get to a point when we say, those people who don't have access to technology, we know even in South Africa, many people don't have access to the internet, or they have bad connectivity, they don't have access to phones. So at the end of all of this, we want to kind of come up with a toolkit, which we didn't speak about as yet, but we've spoken about it privately, that where we come up with this toolkit where those who don't have access to digital means can try and use their voices in their communities. So we might be focusing on digital activism at this point, but we want to look at how do we go beyond digital activism when people don't have that at their disposal.
Now, you're tackling a number of issues, and you've also just outlined that you are using a lot of influential youth currently that you will be using, during your series. And you're tackling a number of issues. One of these issues is climate change. What exactly do you hope to achieve here?
Well, we know climate change it's one of the biggest issues that are facing the entire world, not just South Africa. And we know, and often the conversations that have taken place have been dominated, I think, by those in the global north or in the Western countries. And I think we want to focus on how does it affect people in our communities. And our two guests that we're going to have around climate change are both people who have been working within the South African context, but also within communities. So those who are being hardest hit by climate change. Because it's no use we have conversations about how climate change is affecting it globally, or why is it an important global issue when we're not looking at it in the communities in South Africa, how is it affecting those people? And I think that's what with all of these issues, it's wanting to look at those who are doing the work in communities or in the areas, how can we amplify that perhaps in a different direction and use it to create further conversations?
Now, if someone is listening to our conversation this evening, how would you encourage them to join the series and also participate? And also, I know that you are using this hashtag, Be the Driving Force. Just speak to us about just the logistics around this campaign, how you want to onboard people, how you want them to participate over the couple of weeks that you will be running the series.
Well, we definitely want lots of people to get involved. You can get involved by following the Daily Vox and Youth Capital's, all of our social media. We have all of the information there. We have a WhatsApp group that has gone live. So if anybody wants to ask questions to our guests that we're going to be having in our Instagram lives, please join the WhatsApp group. So every Monday, the WhatsApp group will be open. Monday and Tuesday, people can send in their questions. We also have a newsletter, a special pop-up newsletter for the duration of the campaign, where we're going to be putting up the conversations that have taken place and further information. And every Wednesday at 6 p.m. on the Daily Vox and Youth Capital's Instagram, we're going to be having our lives. And obviously, use the hashtag Be the Driving Force and start having those conversations online. Tag us, send us questions, send our guests questions, and let's ensure that youth and the issues facing young people stay at the forefront beyond Youth Day.
Final question before I let you go, Fatima. So your series is running from Monday until the 9th of July, which obviously is after Youth Day, which will be on the 16th of June. What happens after the 9th of July?
So as I mentioned earlier, we're going to be hopefully putting together that toolkit. And with that toolkit, it's from all of the conversations we've had, people giving from the conversations, people giving tips, suggestions, solutions. We're going to put that together, and hopefully that's something that will be published online, and hopefully even in hard copy, if hopefully when things get better, that we can hand out in further engagements, so that it ensures that all of these engagements don't just stay on Instagram or on our websites, but they come out in like a hard copy booklet that we can distribute and would help ensure that these conversations have wider reach.
All right, Fatima, thank you so much for your time this evening. That was journalist at the Daily Vox, Fatima Moosa. The Daily Vox, in partnership with Youth Capital, are starting a series of talks that will be taking place from Monday and will be running up until the 9th of July. We'll have